Good morning, Service Alliance community.
Good
How's
morning.
everybody doing out there? We have my partner in crime, Mike Carson, with us today. And we're super excited to have our buddy, Phil from Atomic Tech. How you doing, Phil?
Hey, buddy, you doing all right today?
Oh, yeah, man. Other than my computer acting like a complete piece of junk, everything's great. I can't complain. So if I have some technical difficulties, we'll make it through this. My computer decided to crash about 5 minutes before this started, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm glad to have you guys on this morning. How you been doing, Mike? Can you hear
You
me,
guys
Mike?
there?
Yeah, we're here.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can.
How you been doing, Mike?
I'm good.
Good.
Been
Good.
busy working.
Yeah. Yep. We are talking this week mostly about leadership, hiring people, training people, stuff like that. And when that topic, I'd already asked Phil to come up, but when that topic popped up in my head, it was funny because me and EJ hadn't talked, and EJ talked about the exact same thing on Monday. So it was meant to be. But I thought it would be great to have Phil on. For those that don't know, Phil owns Atomic Tech. He is someone that I look up to in the industry. He's very knowledgeable. Oftentimes when I'm scratching my head or going through something crazy or just trying to figure something out, I'll call Phil. So thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course, and I always answer the phone every time.
Yes, sir. He does. Yep. Phil, Atomic Tech.
Hey,
Same
buddy.
one every time.
Yeah.
But we're going to pray up, and I got a couple of scriptures to share, and then we'll get into a little bit of discussion. Mike, you want to pray us up?
Sure. Dear gracious Lord, I want to thank you for this day. I want to thank you for all you've done for us and given us the opportunity for another day to be your example in this world. Please be with us. Please be with our teams. Please be with our families. Keep us safe. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So as you guys all know, my favorite book of the Bible is Proverbs. I think any business owner, whether they're a believer, non-believer, or whatever, can get some good little nuggets out of Proverbs. And I was thinking about hiring people, training people, and all that good stuff that goes along with being a business owner. And I started reading this morning, and the amount of verses that popped out to me were crazy. And the reoccurring theme that I kept seeing was that the words we speak matter. Not only just the words we speak, but the way we speak to people. I'm one of those people that I'm pretty cool, calm, and collective until I'm not cool, calm, and collective. And one thing that I've had to learn as a business owner is to watch the way I speak to my team, watch the way I speak to my partner, my business partner, and really just be selective and careful when I'm speaking to my peoples. Proverbs 15 verses 1 and 2 says, "A gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge appealing, but the mouth of a fool bleaches out foolishness." And then if you jump on down to verse number 23, it says, "Everyone enjoys a fitting reply. It is wonderful to say the right thing at the right time." I know for myself, I have to watch my tongue because boy, oh boy, I can say the wrong thing at the wrong time. And when I do, I know it as soon as it happens. But for me, it's one of those things where, you know, I have to be intentional with my words. I have to have a plan when I go to uh maybe for instance, recently I had to correct one of my team members, and I had a plan when I went to do it. Something happened and we had to address a situation, and I actually wrote it out, and I found that planning it out and actually strategizing how I'm going to handle it. And another thing that I mentioned in the pre-roll before we went live was when you go to correct someone, do it in private. You know, if you're having a team meeting and the entire team's there, and Billy Bob done messed up, don't correct Billy Bob in front of everybody. Don't chastise him in front of everybody and embarrass him. Pull him to the side and let him know, hey man, you're doing a great job with this, and this, but this issue came up. Phil, what do you think about that? Like, I know you've got quite a few people working with you. You got managers under you. You got a much bigger operation than I do. How do you deal with that kind of, where you do have to correct people on a regular basis?
So it all goes down to your culture. So we bred a culture in our business that we're a family. So typically corrections aren't chastising. Most of my team want corrections on the spot. Despite if there's people around or not, they want to know. They say, just tell me right as it happens, just tell me. But then it goes to how do you speak to people? If somebody makes a mistake, I don't go throw something at them like, why the heck did you make this mistake? It's like, hey, why don't we try this way? Sometimes it's not even telling them they made a mistake. It's like, hey, you did good. Well, let's try it this way. See if we get any better results. We call it fine tuning instead of corrections. Because as we all know in appliance repair, sometimes correcting the problem by replacing a part isn't fixing anything. By saying, well, you're going to change the behavior, let's change this part. The business is kind of the same way. Just changing the part doesn't always fix it. Sometimes you have to fine tune the machine to make sure you just make a small minor adjustment. Sometimes the minor adjustments happen while the machine's running. Sometimes it happens when you unplug it, online and offline, right? Talking to somebody in front of everybody. I think personally it's going to make it a big difference of what it is. If somebody made a major issue, yeah, you need to take them to the side and like, hey, bro, this is what's going on. Let's talk about this. But most of what we have falls back to, the topic of the year, SOP. If your SOP aligns it up already, making fine tunements to things that are happening really aren't considered corrections to us. They're just fine tuning mechanics. But I agree with you on that. The true corrections do need to happen, in offices. But then again, it kind of gets tough too because we have our office is like a family. All of our doors face the center room. So I'm like, hey, come office for a second. Everyone is like, you're going to the principal's office. You're done for. So even still, pull them off to the side. Sometimes that embarrasses them more, depending on situation and how it's done.
Let me ask you this. One thing that I am working on implementing, thinking forward. One thing that I'm thinking about implementing is when there's a major thing that happens, when they do a major mess up, is documenting it and having some sort of form where, let's say, I don't know, whatever the thing is that they do that they shouldn't have done, it's documented. Do you have any type of disciplinary documentation where if an employee messes up, or I don't know, I'm trying to think of a documentable
I mean, we document things that happen. So obviously the first time you have something, it's verbal. The second time it's probably still verbal. Third time it's only like, all right, we're going to put this on a piece of paper and put it in your file. But I can tell you, like, when it comes to those things, the two major things that point those out are more CYA, cover your ass type situations. One of them being, I do, point out my business, we do third party warranty and COD. If a technician forgets to collect a deductible, forgets to collect a COD payment, it's a verbal, we get it corrected. But if it happens multiple times, we put in the paperwork with the corrective action. If you don't collect these payments, you're going to pay the payments. Don't fix the appliance for the customer and you pay for it. Just try to give some examples of things we're talking about. Um, yeah, and everyone, every business owner here just said, "Ooh, someone forgot to collect a payment." That's a rough issue to really keep up with if a technician just doesn't do something major in a home, and you
But
don't
it
check it
happens.
later. It does happen, yeah. So stuff like that. First time verbal. Hey, this cost the company $300, $400. You can't do this kind of thing. That's if you had to pay that out of your check, how would you feel, right? And then the second time, like, hey, you're stepping this line. Third time, it's like, all right, we're putting this on paper. If this happens again, you're paying for the repair. That just trying to give examples. Another one that we do is, some of the CSR, we get open pretty early. All my CSRs are already here. They're already all running. Occasionally you'll have one person that has an attendance issue. All my staff currently, I don't really have any attendance issues. But you have that one person that likes to show up 5 minutes late and it shows up to 10 minutes late. You give a couple verbals, but then it needs to go on paper and say, hey, I am documenting your time. We're salaried employees. You still need to be here on time. We have a job to go. The phones turn. I have digital phones. Our phones turn on right at 8. If someone's not here picking that phone up at 8, I'm picking it up, and the customers don't want to talk to me.
Yeah. Mike, you have several employees working for you, and I'd like to switch gears a little bit because you're in a different realm of the industry as far as advertising and marketing. But when you're looking to hire a new person, what are some of the things that you look for? Like, what are some of the red flags that throw up a caution to you, and what are some of the things where you say, man, this guy or gal's gonna be a good fit?
Well, one of the things that I do is aside from all the experience things, I want to look for someone who's completely teachable. And sometimes, people that are very, very experienced, they're very set in their ways and they're not as teachable. So I ask a lot of leading questions on, how to expose whether they're teachable or not. Because if you can't teach somebody, they don't want to learn. So you need someone that's willing to learn and be open-minded. So I ask a lot of those types of questions. And another thing is how do they handle problems? Like I ask them flat out, how do you work through problems? And tell me about a problem in detail that you weren't able, it was too challenging, or how did you approach that? I want to know their thought process and their steps behind things like that, because I want problem solvers. Because we deal with problems all day long. Our customers come to us and they're like, something's not working, or I broke something, and you have to diagnose things. Just like in your industry, it's the same thing. Every industry has to fix problems, right? So that's one of the major things that I go after, is I want to see if they're analytical thinkers and problem solvers as well, because to me, that's real key. And it doesn't matter what position they're in. I ask whether I'm hiring a technician, a programmer, a marketer, a designer, or any type of person, they all get the same types of questions, because they're all going to be in those situations at some point or another with each other.
Yeah, that's good. What types of things do you what type of either like tests or tools or whatever do you use to gauge that problem solving ability? Is there like a specific thing you do, or is it just something you kind of catch on real quickly with the way they handle things?
A lot of it comes with experience, but I've got SOPs for it, because it's a standard that I do with everyone. So I pull out that SOP and I have to review it and, kind of just make my plan in it. I hire people So like I said before in some of the other live streams, I don't have a lot of churn and turnover. So I need those SOPs to pull things out and remind myself all the time, every time I do this, so that I can go through it properly. And it seems like whenever I do that, because it's so few and far between for me, that every time I do it, I tweak it a little bit more.
Yeah. What about you, Phil? What's your kind of hiring process, and what are some of the things you look for in a technician? I know if you're probably like every other company in the United States of America, you're always hiring,
Always hiring.
especially nowadays.
I got a van sitting right in front of my window right here without a tech in it. Every day I look at it going, I need to put a tech in that van.
Strategically parked.
So yeah, it's right in front of my window, so I have to look out and I see it every day. So it's at the top of my mind, just trying to get somebody in there. But truthfully, with the way the market's gotten with employment, it's being creative. And I hate to say that I've lowered my standards a bit, but I have. I've had to lower what I'm looking for in order to find the correct staff. But I mean, I still go with with Mike saying that they have to have that problem solving ability. For us to measure it, I do use an aptitude test to measure it. Most of it that's only if I'm unsure. Most of it though is through experience. Talking to them. I like to call myself a people person. I can talk to somebody right off the back and go, "This is a good tech. This will make a great tech," and it's the ability to learn. In talking to somebody, I'm looking for how they portray themselves, how you carry yourself. How you carry yourself tells you a lot about a person. If I have somebody in here and I'm interviewing them and they're afraid to talk to me, right off the bat, they're not going to be a great fit, because right off the bat, at CSR, they're going to be timid on the phone. They're going to be timid in a home if you have a technician. Somebody who's even having a hard time just speaking to somebody right off the bat, it's going to make a tough time. I understand people are nervous and stuff, but somebody who can't even carry themselves in speech typically isn't built for our industry. I'm not saying they're a terrible person or anything like that. They're just not built for our industry.
Yeah.
Our industry is very specific. It's very unique. What we need and what we're looking for is very specific. We're looking for A-type personality people. We're not looking for B and C type people. So we need the go-getters. We need the outgoing. The go-getters typically are going to be your problem solvers. That being said, you don't always need chiefs either. So you don't always want to hire management quality people. I'm always looking at business reasons. Sometimes you got to have Indians, not all chiefs. You need to have people to work your business, not people to run your business for you. Would I love to hire 40 of me? Sure, but I can't afford 40 of me. So I do need people to be able to run the phone lines, answer calls. But when it comes to hiring, right now it's going through a unique process. It's finding something different, finding what somebody else isn't doing, and being creative with your hiring process. Obviously, you got things you can do, sign-on bonuses and such, but you still have to find the right qualified candidates. And sometimes that's hiring somebody that may or may not work. We do have right now a bit of a higher turnover process, because if I'm bringing you in and I'm training you and you're just not a learner, you're unable to keep up with it, we make that decision pretty early on and say, hey, I appreciate you coming in. We still pay them for their time, of course, but just, let them know, hey, unfortunately, I don't think this is going to work for you. You're just not progressing to the point you need to be. And you can find that out pretty quick, first 5 to 15 days, if someone's going to take on or not.
Yeah. I hear a lot of business owners say the number one thing they look for in a new hire isn't their mechanical skills or their tech savvy skills, but their people skills. And I've heard it said over and over and over again, and I'm starting to really line up with this. You can teach just about anybody how to fix appliances, but those people skills, dealing with the customer, talking with the customer, the soft skills, they're trainable. But if the person doesn't have any of it to begin with, it's much harder to teach them that than it is to teach them how to, diagnose a circuit and figure out the issue and things like that. Would you agree with that? Phil?
100%, 100%. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if I even said anything in the talking. I wasn't even looking for anybody who knew what they were doing. Um, everything I talked about was the soft skills. Can they carry themselves and such? Yeah, and I agree with you. You can teach anybody to fix appliances. Well, almost anybody to fix appliances. The number one break question for me, is, are you afraid of electricity? If they say no, I can teach them appliances. If you're afraid of electricity, you can't be an appliance tech. You're afraid to work on things.
Yeah,
Um,
you have to have a common respect for
with common
electricity.
respect, yeah,
Yeah, you have to respect it, but you also have to realize you're going to get shocked.
you're gonna
It
get that.
happens.
Yeah.
Lord knows I've been shocked a few times. One thing I wanted to touch on too, man, and this. I'll be straight up honest with you guys. This is um I'm asking this because this is something I'm currently struggling with. Continued education and continued training. So you hire a guy or a gal, you get them out in the field, they're making you money, they're running calls, and then they start to get complacent. Then they seem like they're not growing any, they're not really, involved in the community. How do you keep that passion for learning appliance repair, because it's always changing? How do you, in your culture and in your company, how do you keep that going, and keep that continued education going?
For us, it's losing a lot of money. That is the scariest way to say it. Once a month, I close the entire company down. And I say once a month. It's normally the first Friday of every month. Normally, sometimes I move to the second Friday if things are going on. And I bring everybody in. The office staff take care of auditing on that day. All of our open things that have been sitting out for a while, they take care of all the auditing, part orders, house cleaning stuff from the administrative wise. The office takes care of that. But I bring all the techs in every month to the warehouse, and we sit down and go, okay, guys, this is what's coming up in the next few months, right? So right now we're entering sealed system season. So um, last Friday we had our sealed system refresh training. Everybody came in. And I have units in the back of my warehouse. We brought down units. We vacuumed them up. We recharged them. The guys shared between each other's their tips and the tricks. A lot of times too, it's not even a formal training where I stand up. Sometimes it's getting the guys working with each other, going, all right, guys, here I just picked this one up the side of the road. Have fun. And that's it. Really refreshes it, because what happens when you get a guy that's complacent, it's because he's lost self motivation for 9 months. He's been doing it by himself. And I know we're there for him and say, we have his back, or, I'm there for him if he needs me. But he's in the van by himself running down the road. And he doesn't have that competition motivation to keep him going. So for us, we bring him in and we pick a point and say, okay, this is what we're doing for training this month. And also it really works great for fellowship too. Fellowship between the techs and the office is key and crucial for the business to run successfully. We feed everybody lunch, we train, we have a good time, we joke, and then typically I do it on a Friday. I let them all go home early so they can start their weekend early.
Yeah, that's
So
great,
that's
man.
that's our training process, right? And I say spend a lot of money because everybody's getting paid their salary for the day, and I have zero billing coming in. It's the biggest net punch in the face of the month, and I do it every month. I say every month. I skip July, so 11 months out of the year we don't do it in July.
But obviously it's worth it to you.
It's absolutely worth it to me. It kind of rough in May that I did my training, and then LG said, "Hey, we want to bring a trainer to you. Can you give us a day?" So I had to do it twice in May. But even still, looking back, I mean, it was one of the most important things is all the techs being on the same page for SOP. We fine tune SOPs, how our software works. We do van checks, fuel checks, make sure the vans are in operational condition. We do our oil changes on that day. Every time we do training, our oil change place is right up the road. We cycle the trucks going in and out of oil change, so every vehicle is maintained on the same day. It's a fine tune for the whole company, but the specific was for the technicians. That's our training day. Continued education, making sure the guys come in. Now, if somebody else is having an issue, for example, Samsung, I like to pick on Samsung, they're ice makers. There's a lot of steps that go into that Samsung ice maker kit to make sure it's right. If we notice a technician or whatever is getting that, we'll stop and pull them aside and say, hey, let's practice this one good time. I'll go out there with them. Continuing education. We keep really strong metrics on what techs are doing right and what technicians are missing out on, and make sure we get that technician that's missing on that key ingredient make sure they're confident. And that really helps with their confidence and really pushes them forward.
I was actually going to ask you about that. And then I'll ask Mike the question I just asked you. But one thing I've considered implementing, and we're actually getting ready to put into place, is monthly ride alongs with techs that are out in the field, where myself or my business partner, you know, plans a day. Like, typically speaking, most technicians struggle with refrigerators. So we're thinking to plan a day where we line up 6 to 8 refrigerators, and Austin rides with our new guy Zach the entire day. And not showing him, but watching him and helping him and seeing all the ins and outs of how he's doing things. Do you implement anything like that regularly, or is that kind of just something you do whenever?
Is that for me or for Mike?
For you, because Mike doesn't have any technicians, but he can answer it in
Yeah.
his own way.
No, we do ride-alongs. And it's funny too because you say refrigerators. When we first started, that was our pain point with refrigerators. Now I find dishwashers is that, but um, dishwashers where techs struggle the most. I feel. But yeah, we do ride-alongs. And it's cool, adding into that too, we include ride-alongs with our office staff. We send office staff with technicians because it's important for the staff to see what's going on in the field. Um,
That's a great idea.
I mean, how do they answer questions if they've never been there? Um, so, that doesn't happen a lot, but, once every couple of months, we'll send one out just to, hey, this is what the techs deal with on a daily basis. And then opposite is true. Techs need to sit with your CSRs so the CSRs understand the promises that they're making in the field and how the CSRs have to deal with it. But we do ride along training if we have a technician that may not be making, and I go through numbers a lot, a technician that may not be making their numbers. We'll talk to them like, hey, where were you struggling at? We'll see where you're struggling at. And we'll line them up 6, 7 calls. And typically we do it the opposite. We put the lead tech, we put the struggle tech with the lead tech for the first half so they can see this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And this is the steps that I'm taking. And then we flip flop in the afternoon. And then the apprentice takes back behind. The apprentice takes over. And then the lead tech kind of keeps an eye and says, okay, yeah, we fine tuned pretty good. I can see what's going on now.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I would consider your industry, as far as marketing, website development, things of that nature, more of a behind the desk type job. What types of like continued education and continued training is necessary? Because I have zero knowledge of that type of work. But what kind of continued training goes into that type of thing?
Well, in our industry, we're dealing with software, we're dealing with algorithms and so forth. So our industry and technology, it changes much, much faster than yours does. In the grand scheme of things anyway. I mean, technology always changes, but when it's the software side, it changes a lot faster because it doesn't have to be physically built like a refrigerator or washing machine, technology. So we've constantly got to keep up on that continuing education. And it's just that's a real battle because there's always something new to learn and figure out and tests. Some of these companies, on our end, they don't tell you what they've changed, so there's a lot of testing involved to figure things out, but yeah, we do a lot of online training. I'm a big fan of online training, and that's actually how my business started out. We started out as a consulting company and a training company, and we built our own learning management system, one of the first ones that were ever out there. And just to do online training, and I basically built that so that my office staff and technicians, when I was in the collision repair industry, I wanted to train them and get everybody on the same page because we had multiple locations and every one of those locations was running different as their own island. So that's continuing education and getting everybody on the same page in what they do like Phil, you've got multiple CSRs. I think it's a real challenge when you've got multiple people doing the same job task. You've got to keep them all on the same page. They've got to have the same standards. So I can relate to that. Even though I'm currently in a different industry, I was in an industry where I ran multiple shops. I owned multiple shops, and we had well over 100 technicians in all those shops, and that's a big challenge.
That's a huge challenge.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the challenge that I'm having with just one guy. I can only imagine having 10. How many technicians do you have right now, Phil?
12 on the road.
12 on the road. And then how many office staff do you have?
7.
7. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot, man. Like, and it can be daunting. Like when as a 4-person team right now, a small little business, it's daunting to think about when you're at this stage. But like, what's some words of wisdom from both of you? We'll start with Phil and then go to Mike. For the guy or gal that's out there right now that's thinking about hiring their first person, what are a couple little nuggets of wisdom or advice you could give them that you think would be helpful as they move into hiring their first person?
Do it. That's the best. I mean, it's hard to say it that way, right? Because everyone wants, like, I need to strategically plan all of this out. But honestly, do it. That's the best advice I can say is do it. If you have more than 40 hours worth of work a week, do it. And then realize, and then lay out your goals list and go, what would I like to do if I had 20 more hours this week to do? What would I get done? And if you look at your goal sheet and go, for these 20, if I could get 20 more hours in my work week without increasing the time on the clock, what goals would I meet? And if those goals align with needing another person, you best do it, especially if it's something only you think you can do. And I don't want to say it's mundane, but the number one thing in our business we want to talk about CSR for is picking up the phone. If you could pick up the phone less, what could you get done? Could what you get done increase your profit margin? If you can create more profit by not picking up the phone, why don't you have somebody picking up your phone? If you have more work, right? If you're telling customers, I might be able to get to you middle of next week, you need a technician. Because we're in an industry now with Amazon. Everybody wants you tomorrow. And I can tell you, if you're calling, a customer calls you, goes, you can be the greatest technician in the entire area where you're at. If their refrigerator's not working and they've got, insulin and they've got a kid who's drinking milk, and especially the breastfeeding moms, you heard the jokes about their supplies. I mean, that's an emergency call. If you tell them I can't be out till next week, they're just going to call the next guy. And the sad part is the next guy might be chucking a truck that you're trying to keep them from. So as lay out your goals. If you can bring somebody on, do it. And I can't tell everybody their numbers, but looking at your numbers, look at it and go, how much is this person going to cost me? How fast can I recoup that now? If you're not sure, just add 20 hours to your week. I know it sounds rough. Go from your 60-hour week, go 80 hours. And then go, man, I really wish I had somebody. And that person will be there. It'll be a no-brainer hire.
You bring up a good point. Let me ask you this, and then we'll switch over to ask Mike the same question. Would you say, as a one-man show, would you say it's more important to hire that CSR first or add that additional tech, or is it based upon the specific business?
I think it's based on the specific person. If you're a one-man show, I mean, I know the person is the business, but one-man shows have a hard time letting go of control. So what control are you willing to let go of? Getting your personal schedule, hiring someone to take care of your personal schedule. Because if you're a one-man show and you stay as a technician, you're hiring someone to handle your schedule. You're hiring someone to take care of you and manage your schedule for you. That's really what you're hiring on a one-man show with a CSR. Can you release that control, or can you release control of what's happening in the home? The biggest step is releasing control. The first step. What's easier for the person who's a one man show to release control of his own personal schedule or control in a home? Whichever one you're more comfortable with leaving control of, that's the way I would say hire your first additional person.
Yeah, that's good, man. Because for me, it was 100% the phone. Like when I tell people all the time, it was the biggest game changer in my business when I hired Beth. Now, I was extremely fortunate to hire someone with 20 years experience in the appliance industry right out the gate. So I kind of found the unicorn of CSRs. But it was a game changer. And before I get Mike's tips on that, I would say if your focus is going out there and running calls and doing your thing out in the field, the CSR should be your first thing because it frees you up so much because you're losing work if you're answering the phones. Your work is being affected. But what's your take, Mike? What's a couple of tips? And I often forget how you used to run technicians and things like that. So I apologize
Yeah.
about that. But what's some tips you got as far as a new guy, brand new, business owner that's thinking about taking that step to hiring people?
Well, I 100% agree with everything both of you just said. Um, the one man show, he started his business because he was a tech in most cases. I mean, 99.9% of the cases, you were a tech and you started this business. And now you're wearing so many multiple hats that, it's crazy on how many hats you can wear in a business. And you don't even know it until you're in the business. So when you're looking at hiring somebody, the first thing you do is obviously there's some things you need to outsource. You're going to need to outsource things like bookkeeping, maybe, managing all that, your own paycheck, whatever it is. And then I 100% agree. The CSR should be your very first hire because it offloads all that, I guess, that necessary evil stuff that just consumes your time. And when you're wearing multiple hats and you're a technician and a CSR and a bookkeeper and you're doing all these things, you can't focus on one thing well. So if you're going to try to give the customer the best experience that you can possibly give them, hiring a CSR or outsourcing that to a third party company to answer your phones, whatever it may be, I would start there 100% because someone focused on answering and dealing with the customers in that aspect and offloading that, it's going to take a huge weight off your shoulders and it's going to allow you to focus on what you need to do as running your business and going out there and fixing appliances and keeping that cash flow. I mean, every business, cash flow is the number one thing. So if you don't have the cash flow and you're trying to do everything and that's hindering the cash flow, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So you can't look at a CSR as an expense as much as an asset because it's going to be an asset that's going to make you money because it's going to allow you more time. You're going to be able to run more service calls. You're going to have more cash flow. And even if it's a break even, say it's a break even and the extra cash flow just compensates for that CSR. How much less stress do you have? Is that worth it? I in most cases, I think absolutely. This just getting that stress off your back is going to make you a much happier person in your business, a much happier business owner. So that's my
Absolutely.
take on it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Phil, do you have a hard stop or
I
okay?
don't.
Because I'll tell you straight up, I can talk about this all day. But
I'm actually too. This is
we got a question from the audience. Elliot Godfrey on YouTube asked, "Do you guys hire CSRs that work remote or in office?" My CSR is remote. She's in Connecticut. She's amazing. I actually found her on Appliantology. And I just recently hired my office help to help me with all my bookkeeping. Shout out to Shayna and the My Office Help crew. EJ's been using My Office Help, which is a remote. They'll do anything: payroll, bookkeeping, scheduling, anything. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, reach out to myofficehelp.com. But they've been awesome. She's been there helping me with the bookkeeping stuff. But I know, Phil, you got some in-house CSRs. What do you
I
have
have
any?
both.
Okay.
I
Tell
have
us a little
in-house
bit
and
about
remote. So
What's the pros and cons of each?
I don't have many cons. Minus the word COVID, right? Um, we were forced to adapt with COVID. I was very against remote work for a long time because I started a one man shop. I had a control issue. I want to have access to my employees. When it comes to why don't we like remote, it's because of access, right? In our minds, our employee is at home playing video games, not running my business, not working, right? I'm paying them to stay home in their pajamas and play video games, right? That's what we get that perception of our remote techs. When COVID hit, we were forced to send people to work remote or close our doors because we weren't allowed to be next to each other. But luckily, my business was already set up completely digital. But I was just a hard head and I didn't want to let my staff work remote. So if we're going to say cons, the cons is in our physical location, we deal with a crap ton of parts. Somebody has to physically touch those parts. A remote person can't physically touch all the parts here. When you're looking at returns, receiving in, labeling, shipments coming in, we have a lot of shipments, daily, hundreds of parts. So the con would be someone's not there to physically touch it. So you have to have someone physically touch stuff. Um, but as far as the cons of remote, there's not one for me right now. My remote staff are amazing. I don't have any issues. In fact, I find they get more work done than most of my physical staff. And I think it's because they're afraid of losing the opportunity. Um, but when they're supposed to be there, they're there. When they're not supposed to be there, they're actually still there. They're remote. So as far as the cons, I haven't found many. Minus the access for me to just be able to walk into their office and go, hey, but it's just as easy as to get on a digital, send them a message and they reply right away. But for the most part, I like both. I do like remote and I like physical. I actually like remote a little bit more than the physical because I'm not paying for their office. They're at home working.
overheads down?
My overhead's down, right? I don't have to get them. As I grew, I said, okay, I got to go to a new building again. I move every 3 years with my growth pattern, it feels like. And I go bigger and bigger and bigger. And I keep moving to bigger offices. Well, I'm about capped out with what I need. All my offices here are full. Well, I had someone here and they're like, hey, I'm on remote. Like, bye, go home. And they've worked remote since. And that, it's been amazing for us. The only thing I say about remote is make sure your SOPs are in place. SOPs work remotely if you don't have to stare at them. It's really tough when you're managing without SOPs because your remote employees don't know what they're supposed to be doing. If that employee has an SOP and says this is what they're supposed to be doing, I don't have to monitor them. I'm not looking at time on task or any of that stuff. I know their jobs are getting done. I see the results of their work. What they're doing is supposed to get done. I don't know if that answered those questions, what we were looking for.
For sure. Your whole team is remote, correct, Mike?
Yeah. Yeah. I was in a similar situation that Phil was where I had an office for a little over 3 years and I had my team in that office. And this was pre-COVID. And I was a control freak. I wanted people in the office. I thought I could manage everybody better. And being in the digital space, I have a little bit of an advantage. that you guys don't have. But when I had a marketing sales guy there, I had a CSR there, and a designer and a programmer and myself. So we were all in there and we were cranking out a lot of work, and the communication I thought was great. And then COVID hit. I got rid of the office, and I had one of those team members leave me, and I ended up ultimately letting two of the other ones go and replacing them. But what I found was I could, for my business, I had the entire country to then expand into and get the cream of the crop talent. And that was easy for me to do. And it forced me to, I was already doing a lot of things remote because I did have other remote developers. So it wasn't foreign to me, and it was an easy transition. But communication was the big key. And as long as you communicate, and there's so much technology out there to enable that communication, and video chats, and team chats. We use Slack for all of our team communication and file sharing and things like that. So for our team, it works great because it's way better than texting, and the team can communicate with each other, and I can see it all, and they can see all the other communication, and it kind of causes you to chime in with certain things. Or if you see somebody say something that's okay, that's not quite right, that's not the best advice to give, you can jump in and at least handle it. So that works really well, and it's way better than texting from my experience. So having a definite team communication channel set up is really key.
Yeah, I agree. We implemented Telegram, and we have specific chats for specific things. So we have like a general conversation chat, we have a parts chat, we have a scheduling chat, and it's really been a game changer for us, just as far as communication and everybody being on the same page. You can't say, "Oh, I never said that." No, yeah, you did say that, or you never told me that. No, yeah, I did tell you that. Which you hate to micromanage things like that. But when it's documented, or it's sent out in that general chat or the parts chat, and you can say, yeah, I actually did tell you that. Or sometimes, my CSR will say, "Hey, did you ever get back to so and so?" I'll be like, "You never told me to get back to so and so." And then she'll say, "Look, last week Thursday at 3:00, I messaged you." Like, crap. So you got to be on top of your game too, because
it's good for accountability.
It's accountability, man. Absolutely. It's accountability, and it's something that I need with my ADD brain, and all the squirrels flying around everywhere distracting me. I gotta have it, man. I gotta have something like that. And it's funny because we mentioned, COVID hitting, and so many companies across the world started doing remote, and people started realizing that, hey, we don't have to have these people in the office. We don't have to pay for these big fancy buildings and these big fancy offices. These people can sit at their house and do the exact same thing in many, many circumstances. And being a CSR is one of those things. But one thing I love about appliance repair is there was companies out there that attempted to do like virtual appliance repair. I don't think I would go that far.
We do it.
But yeah, well, I was about to go to that. One thing that I know Phil does that I think is really cool that I'd like for you to just touch on, then we'll wrap it up, is you do virtual pre-trip diagnosis. Would you mind, just because I think it's so cool, would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, we offer virtual pre-trip diagnostics. The elevator sales pitch. If you guys ever have a customer that that calls you. They ask your diagnostics, your trip rate. You tell them, and they're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, I offer a virtual appointment program. For us, it's half of our diagnostics rate because we're doing it right then and there. I've got a guy here doing it. We make a sale on the I don't know if I want to do it customers because I offer them at 50% rate. And we tell them, hey, that if we're on the phone, we cannot verify the issue, what's going to need. We can, that goes towards that total diagnostics rate. But we pre-screen everything we got going through. I would say we're 90% successful, 90% plus successful. Having a part supplier in the loops with that is kind of a big issue, a big deal with that. Shout out to Reggie at Encompass, but I mean, he's crucial to us to do that. I'm going to use Samsung. I like using Samsung as an example. We've all gone to Samsung dryer and go, okay, it's not heating. Oh yeah, we know it's going to be the heating element, right? But in virtual diagnostics, we might notice something else. We might hear the noise of a roller kit. We're like, okay, you need to get some rollers in there too, squealing. We notice some other things that we can take with us that would increase our first call completes. And we also notice some things that we may not. It's fairly frequently, we do probably 15 a month where somebody has child lock on a dishwasher, washing machine, or refrigerator. We can see the lock. They go, well, my ice maker's dispensing ice. It doesn't do anything. Let's get in the video chat. Hey, you see that orange light there? Press and hold that for 3 seconds. Now try it. Oh, it's fixed. Yeah, there's a child lock feature. Somebody was probably you didn't notice it. They pressed and held it. We get those calls. We're getting paid for those. But it's increased our first trip diagnostics. We can do a lot with pre-screens. And that also avoids the truck stop question, right? We know what our schedules are right now, 48 hours or more. That kills our truck stop. We go, what should I put in my truck stop? Our trucks that are at our physical shops don't have any truck stop. We don't have an inventory of truck stop. We have a shop stock. So we can pre-screen calls. We know everything that's going on. The techs can see those pre-screens. We have all the model serials. All that's done from an in-house technician. So another technician can look and go, you know what? I agree with you on that, but I'm also going to take this part because this is what I see. They go to the shelf, they take it off, and now it's in their truck for the day. So we have not infinite, but we have an extremely much larger truck stock because we have a shop stock to match the truck stock. We've got 40 Whirlpool elements, 40 Samsung elements, thermistors. We even have display boards, control boards. The top 100. We stock the top 100 here. If you top the top 100 in your truck, you're driving a semi truck or a small U-Haul.
Yeah, I think that's so cool, man. That is definitely something that I want to implement into my company. And when me and you met at ASTI, you kind of pulled your computer out and showed me like some videos you had of pre-trip screening that you'd done. And you had basically had a technician that got hurt or something, or wasn't able to run calls.
Rotator cuff.
Yeah, and you implemented. Is it just one guy and he does all of it?
One guy, he does 100% of it by himself.
Yeah,
and he only works about 4.5 hours a day. He's here most of the day, but he's only working about 4.5 of the other. He's just like inventorying and just like wandering around and drinking coffee and bothering people.
I think that's so cool, man. I'm envisioning like we're all gonna get old one day. Some of us faster than others. And there's all this knowledge in these old technicians' heads. That's why I love talking and chatting with old technicians. But how cool is it if you can hire one of those guys when he's semi-retired, put him in your office or even remotely? That's something they could absolutely do remotely. And give them a chance to still be involved in the appliance industry, pre-trip diagnosing and doing things like that. I've been knocking down the door of my boy Russ Grant to come help me with that. So Russ, if you're watching, man, the position is there. All you gotta do is just come. So, well, boys, I appreciate y'all coming on, man. It's been a cool chat. I know I get a lot out of just talking with both of you guys. Phil, you're always there when I call you, and I appreciate that, brother. Means a lot.
For anybody here too, anybody in the Alliance, shoot me a message. I'll give you my cell phone number. I just don't want to post my cell phone number on the page. But if somebody wants my cell phone number, I have no problems giving my cell phone number away. There's quite a few people that haven't called me. I don't mind answering the phone. I'm not charging you. Someone posted they need help with R600. I think they're going to come down here and I'm going to teach them R600.
I might have to make that trip too. I need some R600 training.
It's easy. Do it. If you can do 134, I can teach you R600 in 4 hours.
Okay, cool. And Mike, thank you, man. Me and Mike are going to try to be as regular as possible on Wednesdays. So let us know topics you want to discuss. Let us know if you want to be a guest with us one Wednesday. If you have any marketing and website questions, Mike's the man. I can't wait to show everybody the Service Alliance Group website. Every time I look at it, I get more and more excited. It's going to be next level, folks. So if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, make sure you go on to servicealliancegroup.com and do that. And that way you'll know when we launch. But if you're in the Alliance community, you're going to know when we launch because we're going to make a big deal of it. So you guys got anything you like to say in closing?
There's a Facebook user that had a question I think we should address real fast. For me. How do you get paid to ask them for a credit card over the phone before your diagnostics? This is something you guys might need to make as a bigger topic and a smaller Ask Me Anything session, but your credit card processing is a big deal. Make sure you're staying forward with the industry. You can pay via text, website, calling over the phone for us. We have it all available. So we can send customers text messages. They can click a link and pay their own way through a secured site. They can give it to us over the phone. PayPal. I mean, there's all sorts of different things you can do. But I think that'd be a good topic for you guys, a future thing. But
Absolutely.
We text the customer and they can pay over the text message.
Yeah, that is a great topic because that's a super important aspect of the business. We use WePay, which is a third party through Workies, and we haven't had any issues. They take, I think, 2.5, 2 point something percent. But we can do text messages, we can do emails, we can do all that stuff. The only thing I don't like, which if Workies is watching, they need to have a reader because I have to manually punch in the freaking card. And that is really annoying. And also I've had a customer actually be like, I don't want you to punch in my stuff. I don't trust that. So, and but that is a good subject. Mike, you got any closing thoughts, sir?
No, I'm actually good. I mean, I think we covered a whole lot of things, and we've got some topics to talk about in the upcoming streams. So
For the pipeline. Well, once again, my mouse has completely crashed. So I will close us out. Mike, if you want to hit end broadcast, thank you guys.
I will do that.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for coming on, and I will see you guys on Friday.
All right. See you, everybody.
See y'all. Thanks again.
Thank you, bud.